like I said on Facebook today, I thought I'd revisit these, let's move these around this way, these cover plate dies that Lisa brought out quite a while ago now, actually. So they came out, there was definitely 3 in this style. I have the Peony Petals here, there's a Fantasy Flower, and there's also a Dahlia spray. Now you can buy these dies individually. They're designed to work together, but you can use them on their own. You get the whole entire effect if you do buy them together, and you can see in this smaller picture here, this is how they are meant to work. You see the grey outline, which is cover plate 2, and then you get the shaded detail, which is the pink area, which you can cut from cover plate 1. So it's probably best, if you can, to get them as a set of 2, because it gives you so many more options. Now what I'm going to do to show you today is, I've made a couple of different cards, but I'll just show you one technique where we actually cut these dies out and we shade them with Lisa's inks. But I'll just show you the dies. The dies look very similar from both envelopes. One gives you the outline, and if you were only able to get one of these, then I would perhaps say go for this one, because it gives you the outline and it gives you that recognisable flower outline, which you can then paper piece. When you cut, you can shade, you can cut with different coloured papers, different backgrounds. This one does give you that shading as well, but you can still paper piece this and you can still shade. And let me show you, I've made a couple of cards already. Now what I'm going to show you with these 2 cards is that you can do them all nice and delicate, but I think also are perfect for men's cards if you choose the right colours. So I've made one card here. This is like a trifold card, and what I had in mind really was like a wedding invitation. So you have the trifold, you have the really nice delicate die, which is cover plate number 2. So you can see here we've just got the outline of the flower, the outline of the flower here, and I've just backed that with some vellum, and I didn't have You're an Invited To, so this sentiment was the closest I had, but obviously you can put whatever you want on the front there. But that is just nothing more than just a piece of pearlised card die cut with some vellum behind. To add a little bit of interest, I've then die cut this die. No, I didn't actually. What I done, I just took the die itself, placed it on the cardstock, and if I put that over the pattern there, you can actually see that I've actually used the die as a stencil, and I've inked through the die basically to give you the background. So when we close this up together, you get just that hint of the colour, hint of the flower colour through there, and I thought that was really perfect for wedding invites and something that's really, really quick. Now you can also die cut this flower, this single flower, die cut it with using a fairly sturdy cardstock, I would say, as sturdy as your die cutting machine can manage. Then what you can do, you can actually use the die cut as a stencil, as I've done here, and that gives you a much finer outline for the background. So I've die cut this from craft card, and I've used Lisa's white ink, the Cloud 9 Falling Snow, and just one of the larger brushes, because you have to be a little bit gentle because this is quite fine, and I've just used that as a stencil to go into the background, and I think that gives a really nice background. So if you imagine this on any colour really, I mean, if you use one of your actual colours, Cloud 9 colours, and put this onto white, that would look fantastic. But I think this looks really effective just using the Falling Snow ink onto a grey card. And then if you were to mount this up onto the right colours and make that pop, it's such a simple card, But if you're just looking for something really quick, I think that that works really, really well. And you can just put, you know, sentiment on the top there. And that will give you a really quick happy birthday card, or whatever you're using the card for. So that's another really lovely way to use the die in itself. So we have, let's bring that back. So we have the two styles there. Now going back to the dies again, this time round I've actually used both. And this I think would be a really nice man's card, because obviously there's so many men out there who love their gardening. And I think flowers can be given on a man's card in the right circumstances. And here I've used Lisa's satin card. I've used the bronze in the background that I've cut using cover plate 1. So this is more of the detail die, so you can see that in the background. And then I've used cover plate 2, which is the finer detail, and I've cut that in the grey and I've put that on top. And if I just turn that, you can see how that does pick up the light, because I've used Lisa's satin card. And I can see, you can see how that's taken on a completely different look. It is floral, but it's not the pretty floral. So I think that, makes it ideal for a man's card as well. This would actually probably be ideal for like a silver anniversary card as well for a guy, or a wedding anniversary, golden wedding anniversary card as well. So I think that just gives a really different look, and it's really quite textural as well because you've got the layering up. So I'm using the stencil that I made with cover plate number 2. So if you remember, that is the one where the actual detail of the flower is more visible. So I've cut my template out there. Hang on, let's put that on the white so you can see. I've cut it with craft cards. So it's quite a sturdy card that we have. And I've cut the same die out again for a second time. And I've actually already stuck this onto a piece of white textured card there. Now, because I want to paper piece, I've kept the pieces from the top flower and just kept them onto a piece of card here in the right sort of, as best as I can, so I know, and it makes it easier for me to paper piece those pieces back. Now, I've already done the bottom flower here. I've already paper pieced these back in, because what I want to do is actually colour tint these before I put them back into the design. Now there are a couple of ways of doing this, and this is what I wanted to show you. You can either paper piece the pieces back straight back in and colour tint as a whole, but I think the way that I'm going to do it now, do it this way round and colour tint each piece of cardstock before I put it back in, just gives you that element of control of where you're putting the colour. I'm just going to get myself a piece of the messy mat there. For one, you'll be able to see what I'm doing, and I'll be able to obviously get a bit messier with my ink. Now, as I say, I'm going to be using the Falling Snow, because if we're working onto the craft cardstock, we need to, I want to just sort of lighten the craft card, as it were, and then just put a tiny hint of colour onto the craft, because I really do want the craft card style to sort of show through. So let me just put these down. Now I've kept myself back a couple of stencil brushes to use with just the white, so I don't contaminate this lovely white ink pad, which I'm sure will happen at some stage, but at the moment I've managed to keep it quite clean. So I'm using the larger brush, and I'm just going to work from the base of the piece of craft that I'm working on, and hopefully you can see that that is changing colour. As I start piecing this back into the design here, you'll see that it's has actually changed colour. So the majority of this, I want this to be white. And then I'm going to use another brush and come in with the Shocking Pink, which is from the second set of inks. And I'm just going to start just adding just that tinge of pink to the base. Now, I might actually do it like that. Here we go. I can actually flick that ink onto the piece like that. And that will in itself, just doing it this way with your stencil brush, so that will automatically give a nice blend with the white that you're creating. So now I've done that, I can just piece that in. Now I think at this stage I won't glue these in. I'll do that later so you don't watch me. So you can see that I'm just adding the white ink, which it doesn't dull down the craft card. It just allows you, I think, just to add that extra bit of colour on there. And what that does is just going to give you the opportunity just to add some colour in. Now you can add colour direct onto the craft card, of course, but I do just like, I like white onto craft, and I think backing it onto a white piece of cardstock as well, I think that just looks really nice, because I think with these dies you don't actually need to go too fancy with the rest of your card. You really can create something really quite lovely, but keep it really simple. So this is probably a really nice card to make when you have plenty of time, and you can get really artistic with your colours as well. You can possibly, oh, you see what I'm doing there? I'm putting the pink brush on the white pad. I knew that I'd do that. That's because I'm not concentrating on what I'm doing, isn't it? But there we are. So we can see that, we can start piecing that in, and you can start seeing that we've got that nice little halo of pink going on around. So let's do some of these larger pieces here, because it'd be really nice to perhaps come in with a bit of yellow as well, sort of pink and yellow on these flowers. I think would look really lovely, because this is, yes, a peony. They are stunning flowers as they are, aren't they? I've got myself thinking now where I'm going with each brush, and I bet you're all sitting there seeing me go to the wrong ink colour with the wrong brush, saying no, don't do that. There we are. So we can start see that coming together. Where are we? So we can put that down there like this, because what I want to do after I've done this, I'll die cut just the simple outline of the flowers again, and I can lay that over the top, because then that will add just that crispness to the detail of the flowers. So you can see that paper piece is in really nicely. Just that larger piece there. Just check before you put any ink on, before you add the highlight colour anyway, that you know which way round the piece is going back into the die, because you don't want to be putting the colour onto the wrong area, really. Not that it will be the end of the world. Okay, let's put that in there. Is everybody still with me? I'll see. Oh, you've never used yours, Sue? Give them a go, especially if you have both of them. I would say, if you're a little bit scared or a little bit dubious on using them, cut out cover plate 2 first, because that will just give you that confidence, because you'll be able to see the flower, you'll see the overall design, and if you put that against one of your favourite coloured card blanks, or if you have a colour in mind of how you like peonies to look, if you cut this one out first, that will give you a really good starting point, and it just gives you that familiarity with where that dye is going. That's the way that I tackle some dyes, because yes, I mean, sometimes some dyes can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you've not seen them in use for a little while. And I know Lisa's shows are such a whirlwind, aren't they? They're that she doesn't really get a chance to demo them in detail when you buy them. You know that you like them, because otherwise you wouldn't go ahead and buy them, would you? But sometimes when you get them home, because say Lisa's shows are such a whirlwind, sometimes you forget how they're meant to be used. And especially then if it takes a little while for us as a design team to sort of come on and demo them. But always remember that you can look in the albums of the Facebook group. The team is very good at updating with all of their samples in there, and also they go onto Pinterest as well, so there's always plenty of inspiration around for you. So you can see this is coming together. It's got a real highlight of just a real pink hue coming in there, but nothing too bold, and that craft colour is still staying evident, which I think is really nice. I think it's quite smart colour to use on a card, especially against the white. So we put that there. So just as I'm chatting to you, it has come together quite quick. So the beauty of when you're shading like this, you don't need to be incredibly diligent with where you're putting the colour. It really is just a case of a little bit of blending, so you don't need to be sort of too fussed, and it comes together quite quick. Now, as I say, I will glow those in a little bit later. There's a couple of leaves on here, and I'll just show you the technique. Oh, I've forgotten one here. I'll just show you the technique I used on this one if you want to paper piece first. There we are, just add that. Does it go in there? No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. There we are, it goes that way around. So we've got a couple of leaves here, which I haven't paper pieced. I've left the pieces in there. So I'll just show you how I've done this. So if I take my ink, I can just go straight onto this. If you want to get into the detail, it would be really worth taking one of your smaller brushes and just going in and do it that way. It may take that a little bit longer. You may need to be perhaps a little bit more patient just to get that ink into position, but it's definitely worth persevering. And if you haven't got the white ink, or if you're on the fence about it, or if you've got it and you haven't used it, it really does blend so well. Unlike other white inks which I've used in the past, which I've loved the idea of, but I've never really got on with, to be honest, because they haven't done what I've wanted them to do. But Lisa's, you can actually see it building. The white really does build, so the more that you put on, the whiter the pieces that you're, which sounds silly to say, but some inks, just white inks, just really don't do what they say on the tin, which has been a little bit frustrating. So if I come in with the green here, so I'm using the Woodland Moss. Again, I'm using a smaller brush, just taking a tiny amount of ink, and I might just dab off the majority of it. I want to just create the same effect here on the leaves as I did with the pink on the flower. So I'm just going to the bottom there and just working really gently and really slowly, because you can always add small amounts of ink, but you can never usually take it away. So I just add that hint of colour to the green, and I think possibly that might be a leaf here as well. So let's just add some white there. We'll just add a little bit of green in there. Now you can see down here that I've already done these ones, so I've added the green. I'll just highlight that a little bit more. Now if I come in with my pink brush, I will add some colour, just some pink colour to this flower here. Now this is going to have a very different look to it, a different effect, because we've done this all together, but I think it would still work. It depends how much time you have to play, depends what look you want. But what I'm doing, I'm picking up the pink ink and I'm just basing on the centre of the flower and just working in the circle, in a big enough circle, just to catch the base of all those petals there. Now I think this is a good flower to do this one on as opposed to this, because it's a different shape. So I think that's what makes that really work. Now when you get to the point where you think you've added enough colour, it's worth bringing in your plain die cut, which has got sort of all the details taken out of it, and start layering it over the top. I won't use that one because that was a stencil. Actually, you can see the difference here. This one I haven't used as the stencil, and this is very, very dark. This one, because I've used this as a stencil for this, which I've used white ink all over, I've actually colour tinted this, and I think that might look quite nice over the top. But what it does, it just highlights those details again and adds a bit of dimension to the card. So if you keep bringing this in, and then you can see where you might want the colour to sort of pop a little bit more, and see where you might want just a little bit more shading to be added. So I think I might go a bit darker as I can with the pink here. This time I'll go straight onto the top. And really make that stand out a little bit more, I think. And you can see how well these colours actually stand up onto the craft card. Even if I hadn't sort of primed the craft card with the white ink, you would still be able to see the colour on there. So at the moment I'm just sort of playing and chatting with you, because I just want to make this just a little bit more vibrant, I think, before I attach that overlay. Yeah, so if I add that on the top there, you can see, can you see the difference in there? So I'm just going to wait now to have my screen catch up with me a little bit. Yeah, actually what you'll find if you do this at home, that actually seeing that in real life, it's a lot lighter and it's a lot brighter. It looks a little bit dark on the video there, but I think that's just the nature of it coming through the camera with you. But it really does give like a really vintage feel, actually. That's really quite nice. So I think what I might do, I'm happy with that. I'm going to glue this in place. Now my glue's gone a little bit liquidy for some reason. So let's be a little bit careful. There we are, that's the one to use. So I'm just going to add some glue detail around the side. Now you'll notice that when I've paper pieced these flowers, I've actually left out the background here, and I think that really makes those flowers come to the forefront. And it also means that you can use that background of your card or your card blank to actually sort of really highlight those flowers. Let me just add some glue. I don't want to add too much. So what you can do now, you can add that over the top. That gives you your outline. Actually, the way you can think about doing this actually is that you don't have to stay within the lines. When you do your shading, you don't have to do your colouring in the lines, or if you do go outside the lines, when you put this layer on, it covers all of those little bits that you perhaps might have gone outside of where you wanted to do. So it really does sort of smarten up your shading there. There we are. So that gives you a really nice topper. Let's just make sure that all of that is down. And if you see the two side by side, this card, you have the detailed layer on top of the shading, yet this one really is just cover plate number 2 paper pieced. So it depends on the look that you're after. You can achieve the shading if you were just to get the one die, but if you wanted to add a different dimension, you can get the shaded piece, which you can also die cut out as well, and layer the two together, and you have the ability to do that also. So I have cover plate 1 there, cover plate 2 there. I also have cover plate 1 already cut out. So this is the shaded part of the die cut with white. So if you were to overlay these two together, let me get you a darker piece of card. And you overlay those two together, which you can see they fit perfectly. Both the dies have the same outline. And you could die cut it and you have the detail of the flower like that. Perhaps if I were to put that against a white card, you can see the detail that way. Actually, I quite like it on the grey background. I think that makes that really stand out. I think that's really smart. Or if we use the craft card on top of the grey shading, again, that's really quite striking too. So I think it was Sue, wasn't it, who said she hadn't used them. But when you see, if you just get that right colour combination right and just cut out both dies together and just layer them, basically the dies do all the work for you. All the detail is there and you need to do nothing much more than put it against a really nice background. Perhaps if I put this onto the grey. Actually, I quite like that grey and the craft together. Even that works really well, doesn't it? Again, I think that would be really nice for a man's card. And let's just show you, because you've got the different shade in there, you've got the dimension. So I think that works really well. And you wouldn't need to do much more than just put a simple sentiment on there. So I'm just making sure that my video is catching up so I'm not moving around too quick for you. So you possibly wouldn't put pink, but all you'd need to do really is just cut yourself a simple sentiment and just put that on the bottom, and away that you go. So hopefully that's given you some ideas. There's many different ways you can use these dies, but sometimes the simplest way is best. Sometimes it really is just worth going with the way that they were designed. What was the best connection? Let's do it that way, because I quite like that. The grey with the craft on the top there. I think that works so well. So you have simple layering. You have the paper piecing. You have the layering again. You have the delicate version here. And here you can actually use the die as the template just to add that little bit of colour that you can just see coming through that vellum there. And then you can use the die cut itself as a stencil. And imagine doing this on a darker card with your new interference inks as well. That would be quite stunning too, wouldn't it? I mean, I wanted to use the white for you today just to show you how that can work, but the interference inks, and that would really catch that shine, wouldn't it? So yeah, so it's really quite straightforward. You've got 5 different looks there, and you can go as complicated as you like or not. You say the dies really do their work. Elisa's done her job sort of fabulously there, and they really do as they say on the tin. So hopefully that sort of reignited your interest in these cards again. It's really nice to go back and revisit some of the previous designs. I won't say older designs, they're just not the newer ones, are they? But they pretty much you know, they belong in your stash, and they do deserve to sort of have an airing and have an outing every once in a while, particularly if you get a little bit stuck on things to make and you want something slightly different. So you've got 5 different looks there. Hopefully some of you will give that a try, and if you've got them, do post them into the group, because I love to see the colour combinations that you have also. So I'll love you and leave you for and I look forward to seeing you all again. Take care everyone. Bye.